A large portion of the population of the United States is in poverty or from low-income families or households. Research shows that the best way to escape poverty is through a proper education. The public education system or schooling system is created so that all students can go to school and receive an equal education. In this presentation, I will argue that the public schooling system is failing to properly educate students in poverty or from low-income families. Now, many factors can go into this, but the three reasons I'm focusing on in this presentation is the extra cost of extracurricular activities. Another point is arguing that students from poverty or low-income families do not have a better understanding of how to succeed in school. A third one is school is not a main priority for these students, and the fourth reason is the literacy gap or language barrier that may exist in students from poverty or low-income families and their peers and teachers. The audience I directed my final paper towards was Betsy DeVos. Ms. DeVos is the United States Secretary of Education, and she oversees many major decisions that are made that go into our education system here in the United States. The issue I chose to discuss can be found in every school in the United States because poverty is found all throughout this nation. I chose Betsy DeVos because she oversees the education throughout the country, not just one particular area. I want to show Ms. DeVos that this issue can begin to be corrected through small changes in the reasons that I am presenting. The first reason to support my claim is that students from poverty or low-income households do not have the money to participate in extracurricular programs. Money in these households are already tight, and there is no room to add in extra costs of cheerleading uniforms, sports fees, etc. But extracurricular programs can be argued to be just as beneficial as experiences within the classroom. Due to financial state, students in poverty cannot participate in these programs. Because of this, these students are also missing the opportunity to learn a new skill and find hobbies that may interest them. These students are also missing out on new friendships and better social skills among their peers. Schools, coaches, and teachers are not taking into account the extra expense of extracurricular programs, which makes it nearly impossible for these students to participate. Attending public school is so much more than just sitting in the classroom and learning your letters and numbers. And students from poverty are missing out on the programs that come with attending school. The next reason to support my claim is that students in poverty or from low-income households do not have a better understanding of how to succeed in school. Oftentimes, people are in poverty because of lack of a completed education. These families may have parents who did not complete school, which may set the wrong example for their children. Now, I'm not saying that these parents do not work hard. In fact, many of these parents work harder than other adults with a better financial situation. These parents may also hold 2 to 3 jobs that go late, where they are working late, and making it hard for them to support their students in ways such as attending parent-teacher conferences and meetings after school. Because of this potential lack of support and educational influence, these students are not doing well in their studies. In addition to this, studies find that, open quote, low socioeconomic status children show cognitive problems including short attention spans, high levels of distractibility, difficulty monitoring the quality of their work, and difficulty generating new solutions to problems, close quote. These students may also have a lack of hope and optimism, making them choose not to work hard in school. They don't see a brighter future and don't see how an education can affect them in the long run. Teachers need to take into account the lack of support that a student may be receiving at home and the mentality that these students are taking on that is affecting their schoolwork. Alright, so my first counter argument is that many believe it is not the school's problem whether students are retaining the information or not. As long as schools are presenting the information, it is up to the students to choose if they're going to retain the information and apply it. Many teachers are doing the best they can to present the information that is required and make an impact on their students, yet many students put up a brick wall and choose not to apply this information. Yes, this may be true, and it is a team effort between teacher and student in order to have the student gain the information that is being presented, but it is also the school's responsibility to be measuring the academic growth of all their students. It is important that all students are meeting the benchmark scores that will help them become a more successful adult. This is especially important in core subjects such as math, reading, language arts, writing, history, and science. There are several different ways to measure a student's academic growth, and it is important that schools are providing these tests and going over the results and helping the students that are not meeting the scores. My third reason to support my claim is that school is not a priority for these students. Oftentimes, students from low income or poverty will come to school tired, hungry, lack of personal hygiene, and do not have their schoolwork finished. This is not necessarily because these are lazy students, but because school is not the first thing on their mind when they get home. These students may be taking care of younger siblings or helping assist bring in family incomes by having after-school jobs. They are more worried about where their next meal is coming from instead of their math problems and reading assignments. In contrary to this, their wealthier peers or their friends or classmates who have a better financial situation are getting good grades and succeeding in school because they're able to go home, maybe grab something to eat or get home from their sports practice and then focus on their studies, especially with support from their parents. They have extra time to work on their studies and to complete their homework, or they have time to go in after class and get help from teachers because they may have a car so they can get home easily, whereas students in poverty may find it hard to get to and from the school and have to work kind of on their parents' schedules or the schedules of their work rather on their own time. These students are not focusing on their education because of their financial state, and schools are failing to take this into consideration. So my next counter argument is basically just RTI programs. So RTI stands for Response to Intervention Programs. And intervention is basically a specific time slot in the school day where students can go get help from their teachers, or they can test in and out of certain benchmark skills. And if they're testing low, then they have to go to these programs where they can get help. And a lot of schools are really responding well to these programs. A specific example of this would be 90-90-90 schools, which stands for 90% free or reduced lunch eligible, 90% are ethnic minority, and 90% are achieving in the top 10% of district and state standards. So basically, a good majority of these students are in poverty, yet they are still hitting the benchmark scores in the state standards. Now, although we are seeing success in these programs are also expensive, and they only work if schools are using them, which many schools throughout the United States are not. So these programs need to be implemented in order for them to work, and the majority of these schools are not using these programs and still struggling with educating their underprivileged students. All right, so my last reason to support my claim on why students in poverty are not receiving a proper education is because of a literacy gap and or a language barrier. Studies find that most students in poverty are behind their peers when it comes to reading. And in addition to this, many students in poverty come from different ethnicities, so they may be refugees or from other countries where English is not their first language, making it especially hard to understand school and to understand what is being presented to them and to read their textbook and other materials. And in addition to that, their parents may not speak any English, making there be a large wall between student, teacher, and parent communication. And students often feel like they're just a translator between their parents and students, which can be a heavy weight on these students' shoulders. It's important that teachers are taking into account this literacy gap, this reading gap, and are working with these students in order to get their reading rates higher so that they can be successful adults. So those are my 4 reasons to support my claim. And it is important that this issue is addressed, and I think this is an important issue.